was fire, Bob.
Yes, it was.
That's what it was.
That we smelled yesterday morning.
So Mr. Abishan will be turning the cameras over on our firefighters, and we're going to let them introduce themselves this morning first off, and or introduce each other, or tell us who everybody is. And good morning, guys.
Morning. How you doing?
We're doing good. Who's all here today? Who's going to?
I'm firefighter Jimmy Smythe. This is Bill Wyndham, and this is Captain Gary Midget for C Shift. That's who you're dealing with today.
You're the same three that was at Rotary, right?
Yeah,
so you
is.
You got this down pat then, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Sure
As I told him, we're on radio and TV, Bob, and we're just going to turn it over to him.
Oh, yes.
So
absolutely.
you guys take off and show us how it works, and we might find something to eat or something.
There's some good donuts over there.
Yeah,
so.
Go ahead.
All right, well, before we get into all the gear and talking about all the tools and stuff like that we use here at Sullivan Fire Department and many other fire departments around the United States, give you a little bit of rundown on the Sullivan Fire District. A lot of people don't know that Sullivan Fire District actually covers 174 square miles. We cover part of Franklin County, Washington County, and also Crawford County, a little section of that. Besides doing that, we also mutual aid to other departments: Bourbon, Gerald, Rosebud, St. Clair, Potosi, Richwoods. Anywhere they need our help, that's where we'll go to help them out, and same goes for them. If we need their help, they'll come in and they'll help us out. We became a district back in 1976, and also about 12 years ago we hired our first fire chief. And just a little rundown of some fire history. Everybody knows about the Great Chicago Fire that happened back in 1871. And in October, the second week of October is whenever we do our Fire Prevention Week. And the Great Chicago Fire is why we do our Fire Prevention Week. So that was also known as the O'Leary cow knocked the lantern over and burnt the barn down, and that's how they lost half of Chicago and many hundreds of people. Later on in life, they found out that wasn't true. About 20 years later, a reporter made that whole thing up, and that's not how it started. Nobody really actually knows how the fire started. A few years after that, actually about 20 years before that, St. Louis had a big fire down on the riverfront. It was the White Cloud steamship, paddle boat, ended up catching on fire, and it broke its ropes away from where it was docked at, floated downstream, caught about 22 other boats on fire, also barges, caught the riverfront on fire, and it just spread from there and spread about 8 blocks and burnt down over $500,000 back then, which today will be several $1 million worth of buildings and mercantile and everything in the St. Louis area right up there. And a little bit more history, and then we'll get to all our tools that we have down here. Back in the first paid fire department, which was, I went over this, but was Boston. Boston had the first paid fire department. Philadelphia said it was them. It turned into a big rivalry between Boston and Philadelphia, but actually back in 1711 was the first paid firefighter, and that was in Boston Fire. And so that's basically how the fire service kind of got started. Some of the big calls that's happened that started different things in the United States. Also with Chicago Fire, that also prompted a lot of the fire inspections that we do today. They started looking at the way things were built in Chicago, all out of wood, wood-sided houses, wood shingled houses, wood everything, or it had straw on it, or some kind of material like that. It turned into where even the fireplaces, the flues and everything were made out of wood. So now everything's been changed. Even back then they changed everything up to where fireplaces had to be made out of brick. Houses had to start being made out of brick. So there's a lot of things to where these fires have led up to today are all our inspections. And there's been other fires in the past that's killed hundreds and hundreds of people. They looked into how that happened, why it happened, and then they started writing new fire codes on it so it wouldn't happen again. And that's basically like some of our gear. Our SCBAs that we wear on our backs are our breathing devices. Those have changed over the past. This is one of our SCBAs, self-contained breathing apparatus. Whenever we go into a house fire, of course, we teach at fire prevention that you have to stay low, tell the kids to stay low, get out. Same thing for us. We can't just go walking in there, so we have to have this on our back. This has about 20 minutes worth of clean air in it. It's a bottle that gets tested every 5 years to make sure that it'll hold air, make sure it isn't breaking down, make sure it isn't going to give way after the heat. They expand and contract, and we want to make sure that everything's good with our packs. It's just like a backpack, has 2 straps on it. It has a waist strap on it to hold it around our waist for us. Basically, the clips on it are just like what a seatbelt is in a car. We have hoses coming off of it that come down. We have regulators, which is right here. Hold on a second. We have a regulator. The regulator lets the air flow into our mask. It has a hole right here. We click it in, turn it over, and then air will start free flowing through the mask. That way we can breathe it in. Like I said, this bottle only lasts about 20 minutes. It'll hold 2,216 pounds of air, but if you're working real hard, depending on what you're doing, it could last only up to 10 minutes, depending on what you're doing, the physical exertion you're putting off, how physically fit you are. There's a lot of things that weigh on how long this bottle is going to last you. And on all of our pumpers, we have one in every seat for every firefighter who rides out on the truck. This right here is another device to let you know how much air you have in your pack. It has a device on it also. Go ahead and turn it on, Gary. Once you turn it on, go ahead. It has a vibrator up in here. That way, whenever it gets so low on air, a red light will come on, and once that red light comes on, you only have about 5 minutes of air left, and then this thing will start vibrating. It vibrates to let you know you're low on air. It'll also beep to let you know you're low on air. There's many different things in here that'll let you know what's going on, because a lot of times in real smoky environments, you're not going to know what you're not going to be able to see your gauge. You're not going to know how much air you have. So that's where training comes in. That way you know how to use this pack. You know, you're used to it, and you know everything about it. After a while, if a firefighter goes down and they have this pack on, it's turned on, there'll be an alarm start going off on it. Once that alarm starts going off, if he can't get free, it'll keep getting louder and louder, and that'll be demonstrated here in a minute. It has to, if Gary can hold it still long enough. It's very sensitive to motion, which it's supposed to be. As you can hear right now, it's starting to go off. It gets louder and louder the longer it sets. The longer it sets, that lets any firefighter in the building know that there's a firefighter down, or the firefighter's not working hard enough, one of the two. There's a manual reset on it to where you can reset the pass device for whatever reason if you'd have to, but anytime a firefighter goes down into a structure, whether a ceiling fall on them, a wall fall on them, they fall through a floor, whatever would happen to them. They can set this off manually. Come on, baby, work. There we go. As soon as it starts sounding, that's the sound you'll continuously keep on hearing. And then you can also reset it. If the firefighter goes down, he can't get to his radio, but he can get to his alarm. He can set that off. That'll let command know. That'll let the other firefighters know that we have a firefighter down inside. Those packs right there, brand new, cost around $5,000 a piece. Very expensive, but they're here to save our lives. The mask, it's all a combo deal, so it all comes in together. Some of the other tools that we use to protect ourselves, that's come a long way from the past. The coats. We have coats, helmets. The coats, a long time ago, if you ever see any Johnny and Roy, any of them, the old engine emergency 51, they had the rubber coats, long rubber coats. You see any old firefighter movies, they have the long 3/4 coats, and then they have the 3/4 boots that come up. That's the way of the old days. Now we have this gear right here. There's different styles. There's a bunch of different makers of the gear. Gear has several different layers. Outside layer to protect us from our heat. We have an inside layer that protects us. There's 3 layers to this total. There's heat protection, there's vapor protection, and then there's the outer shell. We have reflectors on them. NFPA, who we answer to, they give us all kinds of regulations what we have to have on gear. We have to have so much reflective material on it. there's so many different things we have to do. As you can see, it basically looks like a big winter coat, but it's very protective. In the back of this here, they're also putting in a new device to where you can pull on this, and it has a built-in rescue strap in it. If a firefighter would go down, instead of having to grab a hold of his air pack and pulling his air pack off of him, you can pull this out from the back of his coat, get your hand in there, and it has a harness built in that's going to secure up around the firefighter to where you can drag him out. Another safety tool that we have in our toolbox here with our gear. Another thing we got is our bunker pants. Go ahead and hold those up, Bill. Our bunker pants. Looks like a big mess of stuff here in the front. But what this is, it's called a gym tar harness. And a lot of New York City firefighters, Chicago firefighters start getting these out. It's basically a built-in harness is what it is. Basically looks like a built-in rescue harness. Gary, do you want to? Here, I'll put this on that way we can talk about it.
Okay. Step on the side. Okay. Yeah, there's several different styles of helmets as well. You got your full leather, and you got your composite, and you got your leather with composites. The composites wrapped with the leather. This is one of those that's the composite wrapped in leather. They're a hard shell, so we don't want anything that's coming down on our head to hurt us. We want to protect our head as well as good as we can. It's got an inner liner for shock absorbent in here, so that way we can take the shock if something does fall down on us. It's got chin straps to keep it on your head. He's got a Nomex hood in here. Most people have seen NASCAR drivers. They wear this. They actually took this from us, is what we're going to say, because we're better. This Nomex hood, basically, whenever he's wearing that SCBA and that mask, it protects his ears and his neck, part of his neck, most of his neck. So that way, if any embers fall from the ceiling or anything in a fire situation, it's going to protect his neck and his ears. It might fall in behind his coat, and that this Nomex will protect that. As you can see, Jimmy's got all of his gear on. You can see that Jimitar harness he's got there. It's another safety thing that they've added to the gear to help us out. I mean, we might have to bail out of a window if it gets too hot or something we can't get out, or means of egress is blocked or something. Most of us carry webbing. I'm sure Jimmy's got some webbing in his pocket. Most firefighters do, so that way if they have to bail out a second-story window or something, we can. Most of the time we have a ladder set up for a second means of egress, just like we was teaching the little kids last month that, 2 ways out of your house. So as firefighters, we practice the same thing. We walk around the house as a captain. I'll walk around the house through my 360 and make sure that my guys have a second way out. We don't want to block each other in. He's going to demonstrate just kind of a small demonstration on how, if he was to have to go out of a window or rappel off of something, he could use this harness that's put on this gear for his self extrication, if you want to put it that way, out of a building. He's going to unclasp it, and in the fire service, you got to learn lots of ropes and knots. That's the biggest thing. They teach that.
This here would be tied off to a couch, whatever will not go through the window. A tool, it can be wrapped around a tool and placed in the window jamb to where it won't come out. Once you do that, you take and you wrap this around here 4 times, and that is what we're going to be using to get out with. It gets wrapped around, and then it'll let us slide down the rope, is what it does. It's basically a quick and rough way to go rappelling, and hopefully everything works out the way it's supposed to. So it just gets wrapped around 4 times. There's no safeties, there's no nothing, because all you're using this for is to save your own life or save another firefighter's life. Me and Gary, we have this on our gear. All the new gear that Sullivan Fire is going to be getting is going to have the gym tar harnesses on it. We don't have no big, major high rises, but we do have several 2-story buildings. We have some buildings, residential houses, that we could also use this in, whether it be we're having to rappel out of the back of it, and the back of the house actually looks like a 3-story because of a basement. We could be using this and this to get ourselves out of the house if we get trapped on a 2nd story for whatever reason. It's basic, plain Jane. Get the job done, save your life is what it's here to do. And we can also use it for several other things. We have our ladder truck, our 75-foot ladder. We get to the top. We have another ladder belt that can go around this and hook into the ladder. But instead of having all that extra weight, because we have enough stuff on as it is, we can actually use our gym tar harness and actually hook into the ladder truck. That way, if something would happen with the ladder, we're secured to the ladder. Just some new innovations, new things that's come up. There's many different styles, many different brands of this. This is a very good, very tried and true tested harness. Comes down through the legs, comes around, wraps around, and hooks in. You're completely secured to the harness.
And as you can see on there, as he was talking about all the reflective, our pants are also, we've got a lot of reflection on that. So that way it's high visibility so we can see each other. And smoky atmosphere, you shine a light across that, it'll stand out. We're on motor vehicle accidents on the roadway as well. It'll be, we're able to be seen. Want to talk about thermal?
Yeah, sure. All right. Let's talk about something else. He was talking about smoky atmospheres and smoky conditions. A lot of times whenever you go into these residential house fires, even big commercial fires, a lot of times you can't see your hand in front of your face. Whenever that happens, we got to see what's going on around us. If we're getting sent in for search and rescue, we got to be able to see the victims that we're looking for, or we got to see the job that we've been given. We got to see if we can get that done. And one of our other tools in our toolbox that we call it is our thermal camera. The thermal camera picks up indications of heat in the building. It'll pick up the fire, let you know where the fire is at, let you know where it's the hottest, where it's the coolest, and it'll pick up body heat. I'm going to see if we can get this to work. We're going to shine this through, have the camera shine through this and see if it will pick up Bill right there. And I do believe that it's working. If you can wave for us, Bill. A little close. Get back a little bit. There we go. As you can see, it's a silhouette of Bill. It's picking up his body heat and everything else around it. It's not picking up. You can see my hand there. It works very well in what we use it for. We can use it for searches on land in the middle of the night. We've been called out by the Sullivan PD in Franklin County before to help them with searches on land. We can use a thermal camera to look into the woods and see what's going on. It's a very good tool. Anytime there's a flue fire, we'll use this camera to look behind the walls to make sure it's not in your walls. That way we don't go in and tear up unnecessary stuff. We're not there to tear out your walls. We do thoroughly enjoy tearing stuff up. I know I do. But unfortunately, our chief don't like us tearing stuff up all the time. So this is one of the ways that our chief keeps us from tearing stuff up unnecessarily. Very, very good tool. Anytime we have a house fire, we'll pull it off the truck. We give that to our officer. He can use that in his 360 that he was talking about before. His 360 is where he actually starts at the front of the house and works his way completely around the house, noticing anything from the fire blowing out of the back of the house, smoke coming out of the back of the house heavier than it's coming out of the front of the house, propane tanks in the back of the house too close. There might even be people hanging out the back window of a house and we don't know it until our officer does a 360. While he's doing a 360, firefighters are pulling the hoses, setting the hoses up, getting everything going that needs to be going. That way, as soon as he's done, we can make our attack onto the fire. Or he might see another way for us to get into the fire through the back. If fire's coming out of the front of the house, we might be able to fight it from the front, but if he's doing his 360, he sees that we can go through a back door and push that fire the rest of the way out of the house. That's what we're going to do. We want to make sure that we save your guys' property. We might use a lot of water, but the thing is we want to get that fire out. We don't want to burn your whole house down, and what could happen is we could actually push that fire into the rest of your house. And to get that job done on the tearing stuff down part that I like to do so much, we have a lot of tools in our toolbox that we get to use. This right here is what is known as a drywall hook. They call it a D-ring because down here at the handle it looks like a D. They got to keep it simple for us firefighters. And then up here at the top it looks like a rake. We can use that to tear stuff apart that's already fallen down. If the ceiling's still intact and we have fire in a ceiling or fire in a wall, we'll use this to punch through the wall. It has a point on it. We can get it through the wall, and then this wider space here in the front actually gets a better bite onto the drywall, and you can pull it apart a lot better than small little sections. So that right there is our drywall hook. We can use it for all different sorts of applications. It doesn't actually just have to be used for drywall. We can use it to pull, 2x4s out of the walls, whatever we have to do. We can pull carpet up with it if we have fire underneath a floor, whatever we have to do. Here you go, Bill. This right here is a pike pole. We have all different sizes of pike poles in our trucks. We have, on our new truck, we have one pike pole that is like 15 foot long. Used on one fire, it worked. But we have all different sizes. Here is another D-handled pike pole. These are very old. They were first come up in New York, Boston area. They were needing tools to get through all the plaster and everything up there in the residences up there. So they came up with a lot of these tools come from those old fire departments up there that we talked about before: Boston, Philadelphia, New York, Massachusetts. All up in there, anywhere on the West Coast. So that was the first fire departments that started, and that's what a lot of fire departments look up to and see how they're doing things. They try to do what they're doing, depending on if it's safe or not. Safety is definitely the first thing, though. The pike pole, use it for the same thing. We can punch through walls, punch through ceilings. This can be used to do prying. It's a very good multi-purpose tool to have with you. And then my all-time favorite, Denver tool. It has a little bit of everything on it. It has an axe end on it. Has a sledgehammer. At the end of it, we have the infamous pike pole, and we can also pry with it. If we have to wedge this, it has a point. If we have to wedge this into a door jamb, we can wedge it into a door jamb, pry on it, it'll pop it open. If it's being tedious and aggravating, then we have the persuader, that I like to call it, on the other end. And we can also just drive the door lock through and go through the door that way. It does, this cutout here at the end is for our handle, for our pike pole, just like we were talking about before, our D-ring pike pole. We can take and hold onto that, punch through a wall, punch through a ceiling, and pull ceiling down, whatever you have to do with it. And like I said, we can also use this for cutting holes in roofs, cutting holes in floors, whatever we have to do. It's a very good multi-purpose tool. The only downfall to it is it's so heavy. After you have your air pack on, you have your gear on, you get your gear wet, you get soaked. This right here is a good 35, 40 pounds. So that just adds additional weight that you're going to have to drag around. And that's where you might start using up more air. You got to think about conserving air. You got to think about your tools, your gear, what you're going to be doing. All right. The good traditional fire axe. This one's a little bit dirty, but the fire axe has been known to be around forever. Has a pick head at the end to where you can drive it through a roof, drive it through floor, whatever you have to do to pry up plywood, tear shingles off. You can do whatever you want to with this tool. This is a very good multi-purpose tool. You can put it in a door jambs, pry doors open with it. There's classes on just how to use tools and how to use them properly, and the ways, different ideas people have come up to use these tools and how well it works. So there's so many different things you can use with this tool. But this is the traditional fire axe that you see all firefighters carrying. This looks pretty much just like the other fire axe, only it doesn't have the point coming off of it. This is called a flathead axe. This usually gets used with this tool right here. That's called a Halligan bar. What we do with the Halligan bar and the flathead axe is we can take and we can put that into a door jamb if we can't get the door open. And then the second firefighter, you have to work in teams of two. It's called a marriage package if this is together on a truck. You have your flathead axe and you have your prying tool. Usually they're strapped together. It's called marriage package. What he'll do is one firefighter will put that in the door. The other firefighter will come up and he'll whack that right into the door jamb. And then that way the other firefighter, once it's in, he can pry down, pry up, pry out, whatever he has to do to get that door open. We have several different styles of the Halligan bar. We have the short 3-footers, there's 4-footers, there's 5-footers. Just depends on the application, on what you're going to be doing and how big a tool you need. And then the New York hook. We got a couple of these on the trucks. This is something newer that a couple of the firefighters have bought for their personal tools to use on the fire scene. New York hook, as you can see, it has a flat end up here you can use for prying. It has a hook end just like what the pike pole did. It's a very heavy, solid tool to where you can punch through plaster lath ceilings, plaster lath walls, down at the bottom. It has a pry on it to where you can do different kinds of pries with it. If you'd have to lift something, move something around, pry open a door. It's a very good tool for search and rescue. Whenever we go in, we're always supposed to have a tool with us. And that way, whenever we're searching, we can take, and one firefighter will have this, and he'll be going out doing his search and rescue. He can swing this out to have a further search pattern. That right there just added 4 foot to be able to reach out into a big structure or any kind of structure, commercial building, anything like that to widen your search pattern. Yeah, go through a window. We do a thing where it's called vent enter search, to where if there's a lot of fire in the front of the building, you pull up onto the scene, your command officer says you're going to be doing search and rescue. What we call is vent enter search. We'll go through a window, we'll put a ladder at the window, and we'll take this tool in, we'll set the tool right inside the door jamb, or right inside the window, climb into the structure, take that, and we'll start sweeping it out. And it's for room to room. We'll go over and shut the door, search that room, go right back out that window, move the ladder to the next one, bust that window out, go in, shut the door, vent enter search, and we're using a tool. That way we have a longer and a wider sweeping area to do our search and rescue. We wouldn't really want to use the Halligan bar because it has that point on it. When you get to swinging that around, you're wanting to save the victim, not cause any more injuries to them. And it's just one of the things to think about whenever you're doing this job. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to do, and unfortunately, the education for the fire service never ends. We just keep on going with education in the fire service. There's, like I was talking about before, somebody might have came up with some new ideas on how to use these tools. So there's a class on how to use those tools. So therefore, there's more training, more education for each firefighter, depending on what they're wanting to do in the fire service. Whether it be a fire science degree, to where you can go to college 4 years, get your fire science. You can get bachelor's, master's in the fire department. There's so many different things you can do in the fire service. EMS is another one that's growing big, us helping out the EMS crews on running EMS calls. Get your EMT license, your paramedic. Fire departments up in the city, they run an ambulance with their pumpers or their rescues. So a lot of departments up there, you have to at least be an EMT or a paramedic preferably up there. So these are just some of our tools in our toolbox, a little bit of rundown on the fire service. And if anybody ever has any questions about anything we do or would like to see the firehouse, they're more than welcome to stop by Station 5 on the north side of town or over here on the south side of town. And come in, check out our equipment, check out our tools, ask questions. Just check us out. We're always here to answer questions and help out the public.
For those who've just joined us, introduce yourselves again.
My name is Jimmy Smythe. I'm a firefighter.
Bill Wyndham.
And
I'm Captain Gary Midget.
Now, were you guys called in? Are you on duty right now, or are you called in just for this?
We will be in 2 minutes.
So they called you in early.
We'll be on duty in 2 minutes.
Well, we appreciate you getting here early and doing this for us. As I said, it's very informative. And, Bob, I know people enjoyed watching it, too.
Very much so. I think the most enjoyable thing was hearing that first fire department. The first chief was Rich White. Is that what I understood?
Yeah.
Rich White. Rich White was the first one?
First chief ever in the world?
I think
Second chief. Yeah, there was another chief before that.
Okay.
Well, guys, thank you very much. And we'll be talking to Chief White after we do some news. So appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.